Are you like most sales and other professionals who want to grow their wealth faster than what they are currently doing through their company 401k, even with that company match, the stock market, or just plain saving money? Would you sleep better at night if you had the financial freedom to be job optional in just 3 to 5 years through investing in real assets? Maybe you don't want to stop working, but wouldn't it be cool if you could retire a decade earlier than most and do the traveling you and your family have planned for years while you're still young and can enjoy it? Let's face it, most busy professionals don't have the time or desire to take on more work outside of their W-2 to grow their wealth. On The Wealth Flow, each week we share the stories, the investments, and take a deep dive into the various asset classes that can deliver that accelerated growth to your portfolio passively. That's right, no extra work for you. Instead, we'll put your money to work. Learn what the 95% aren't talking about and join the top 5% of earners today on The Wealth Flow.
Okay, welcome to The Wealth Flow. My guest today is Savannah Arroyo. She is the CEO and founder of Net Worth Nurse and her newest fintech startup, Invest Health. Savannah started her real estate investing career in the beginnings of 2020 and having her second daughter, looking for additional income streams and alternative ways to build wealth. Savannah began educating herself about real estate. She has since purchased $20 million worth of real estate, partnering primarily with healthcare professionals to scale her portfolio. Savannah is passionate about educating and supporting others to achieve their financial goals. She's very active on social media, and Savannah openly shares her stories with thousands of people, giving them the insight to her life as a nurse, as a mother, and as a real estate investor. So Savannah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. When I saw your bio come across that it was set up that we were going to visit, my daughter just started as a nurse just in January. So she graduated in December. So
amazing.
I kept telling her, all right, we've got somebody that's a nurse and she's in real estate, which I've been always trying to kind of get her interested in. So she's anxious to hear the show. Savannah, usually where I start, if it's okay with you, is really just kind of from the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what led you to healthcare first, and then all of these other endeavors?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Sacramento, California. I really knew at a young age I wanted to go right into nursing. So after high school, went straight into working on my nursing degree. Graduated in 2013 from Sac State, and really early on in my nursing career, I was naturally gravitating towards different leadership roles and process improvement. I love operations, and so pretty early on, I went back to school and I got my master's degree in nursing leadership and administration, and had my eyes set on becoming a CNO of a hospital, a chief nursing officer, and started climbing the corporate ladder. I transitioned down to Los Angeles, California, and was growing at a large company down there. And then beginning of 2020, after having my second daughter, priorities started shifting a bit. And both my daughters, I had to hand them over at 3 months old to go back to work in my full-time nursing administration job Monday through Friday. And that was my aha moment of wanting to be less dependent on my W-2 income, looking for alternative ways to build wealth just so that I could have more time freedom with my family.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's kind of a necessity. You don't recognize it, as you said, until you've got the kids, and it's wise that you've discovered that early on. For me, later in life, as my kids were about to leave, I was like, golly, I wish I would have spent more time, been more present, that kind of thing. So that's awesome that you're getting a chance to do that. So do you still do anything with nursing? Are you still a nurse or?
Yep. So I still work as a nurse part-time. I transitioned out of my full-time role in the hospital a little over a year ago, a year and a half or so, and then busy growing the real estate business with my husband. Him and I own a Willow Investment Group, and we do syndications. And so he transitioned out of his full-time role last year, and so I went back to. That's the best part about nursing. It's so flexible. I went back to work part-time. I work 2 12s in the hospital and can hold benefits for our family so that we can kind of continue to grow our business.
That's great. And so did you just get started right away with multifamily? And if so, how did you make the leap from, maybe not being in real estate before to going straight for multifamily?
Yeah, so we jumped into single family first. Coming from zero real estate background, no friends and family in the space, a lot of self-education through podcasts, primarily to learn the language through just osmosis, listening to all the episodes and the terminology and the structures and business classes, asset classes, all that type of stuff. So self-educating through podcasts, books, started networking a little bit, got started in single family homes, got 2 turnkey rentals across the country in Atlanta, Georgia. And then after that, we were hooked. It was like, how can we scale? How can we do more? How do we keep buying real estate? And at that point, we had kind of started generating some interest from friends and family, curious about what we were doing in real estate and thinking down the road, partnering with people through syndications where people are pulling together their resources to go out and buy apartment complexes or buildings that they couldn't do on their own. Then we sort of naturally made the transition into syndications.
Okay. And when you started in syndications, did you start with just you and your husband, or did you partner with somebody initially? Any investing as maybe a limited partner first, or how did that all unwind?
Yeah, so just looking into real estate syndications, we were originally looking at what it would look like to be a passive investor in deals, but we were unaccredited investors at the time and didn't know any operators in the space and didn't really know how we could get involved in these deals without having the relationships. And so we went in to educate ourselves on what it would look like if we put these together ourselves. Like I mentioned, I love operations. My husband loves the numbers. We were wanting to build a business out of this. And so we invested in a coaching program early on. So we together spent $30,000 on a coaching program, more than my master's degree in nursing. But we were all in on it. And if we were going to be handling other people's money in these investments, dealing with large transactions, we wanted to be working with people who had decades of experience, people who could look over our shoulders at our underwriting and make sure that everything was going well, to go over the legal documents and all of that. So that was the reason that we invested in something like that early on.
Yeah, that's great. Because it really is a team sport, especially if you're getting into it. There's just so much. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of regulation and that kind of thing when it comes to syndication. So nice to hear that you partnered up with some folks. Tell us maybe about your first deal. How big was it? How did you find it? Was it a broker that brought you it, or what? How did that work?
Yeah, so our first deal was a 12 unit up in Oregon. It was a $1 million price point. We did raise capital for this deal. We raised $250,000. We set out to raise $350,000. Weren't able to raise as much, and so we ended up putting more money into the deal, which ended up paying off tenfold for us for sure. It was a great deal, but for that one, we were doing all the things. So underwriting deals, establishing broker relationships. And landed up in the Oregon market kind of by habit chance. We were getting started in evaluating markets across the country. I mean, even where we lived in Los Angeles, California, we were just looking at it so we could learn and be able to better compare it to other markets. And so ended up looking up in Oregon, found a great deal. It was on LoopNet, where people say deals go to die, and established a great relationship with a Marcus and Millichap broker who we've since bought in 5 apartment deals with up in the Oregon market.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. And so is that primarily where you're investing now, is up in Oregon, or are you anywhere are you invested in anything else across the U.S.?
Yeah, a large chunk of our portfolio is up there. We do have a storage facility down in Arizona. We had the single family homes over in Atlanta, Georgia, but we've since sold those, but primarily up in Oregon.
Okay, that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about Oregon. I guess I don't know when you started purchasing them. I think you said 2020 is when you started. And when I think of Oregon, I think of California, some of the regulations with the tenants, and not necessarily being able to evict them. Did you run into any of those kind of issues, or were you fortunate enough to kind of avoid that?
Oregon scares people for some reason. I think it's known to not be as landlord friendly as some of the other states. But for us, like even looking at rent caps, they were 9.3% this year. So that allows us to execute our business plan, and none of our P&Ls are we projecting over 5% rent growth. So 9% is plenty of room for us there. We're really looking for strong value add deals. So we're looking for buildings that are really mismanaged. And it can be for a lot of different reasons. It can be it's held in a family for generations, and the owner maybe has a lot of other properties. This one's setting on a back burner. They're letting repairs and maintenance renovations really go kind of wayside. They're not working to raise rents appropriately as turns happen. They maybe need new windows, roofs, and they're not wanting to do the work. They'd rather sell it to someone who's willing to do it. So we look for these value add opportunities where we can go in as operators and do the work, do the heavy lifting, force value and appreciation into these deals. And that's how we're making investors money.
Yeah, that's great. It's always a good plan. And what about, so you started with a 12 unit. Where did you go from there? If you maybe just kind of walk us through some of the different investments that you got in, and then maybe as you're walking us through those, if there were any surprises obviously anytime you're investing, there's always surprises, right? But just curious as to, ones that you've kind of ran into and maybe lessons you've learned along the way.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of our portfolio growth after that 12 unit. So we have a 24, 18, 36, and a 17 unit all up in Oregon and different submarkets up there. We invest in very strong working class markets. So usually home ownership for the markets that we're investing in is less than 40%, meaning that the majority of the people that are in these markets are renters, and they're dependent on rental housing. And the majority of real estate investors know that inventory across the country is really at an all-time low. And so for multifamily, this allows us very low vacancy rates. When we do turn units, we're getting 3, 4, 5 applications right after we list it. And so in regards to those deals, that's kind of how they're functioning. Lessons learned. So yes, every deal, something goes wrong. My husband and I really went through that first deal side by side, learning all aspects of it. Underwriting, we were on investor calls together, calls with financing, the legal team with our accountants, all that stuff. And then as we've moved forward in subsequent deals, we've split up the business. So my husband does all of the acquisitions and asset management. So he's out finding the deal, getting the financing for the deal, and then running the deal throughout the lifetime of the investment, overseeing all the property managers and renovations, that type of stuff. And then I do a lot of the marketing and investor relations, capital raising, that piece of it. I always joke that my husband runs the business and I just get in front of the camera and talk about it. But I really do love the connections with our investors. There are primarily healthcare professionals. And so I just love that aspect of the community building. But for a specific scenario, something went wrong. In our first deal, that 12 unit deal, we were looking at that deal, and it was marketed to us in that there was a storage unit that we could turn into a 13th unit, a studio unit. And for anyone who invests in multifamily, when you're able to add additional units to an existing building, you can really skyrocket that NOI or that net operating income and just add a huge amount of value to a property. And so this was a huge opportunity for us. We vetted out some engineers who went and looked at the space. They drew up sketches for us. They gave us a proposal. We went back and forth with the broker and the seller about rolling out this plan. All of our underwriting was dependent on this. And we're working through the coaching program too. So we had a coach working with us side by side, moving through this. And then I'm sure you can guess what happened, but we closed on the deal and the engineers went to go pull permits from the cities and we were unable to build that 13th unit. And so I still remember where I was in the hospital when I got that email. It was just my stomach dropping. You know, I have investors in these deals, family members. It was just, I felt like, well, didn't we do everything in our power to prevent something like this from happening? Like engineers, like they're the specialists, like did they not, think? And so we were pretty bummed about this, but why I love working so much with my husband is him and I very much have the same attitude of when something goes wrong, it's not dwelling on it. It's like, all right, let's move on. How can we fix this? How can we make it right? Let's move forward.
Exactly.
And so with that, we just move forward. We figured out a way that we can kind of renovate these storage facilities, kind of upkeep them a bit, and that drastically dropped the renovation budget that we were anticipating to turn it into a full studio. And so we came in way under budget, and then we were still able to rent it out for accrue some of that monthly income. And so ended up faring off better than if we would have turned that studio unit. But yeah, we'll never forget that one.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that would be nerve-wracking, especially with it being your first one, just to have something slightly different there than what you had as part of your business plan. Yeah. So, on any of yours, have you gone full cycle on any of them? I know if you started in 2020, maybe not, but what does that look like?
So we're just about to, which is super exciting. The way inflation has pushed rents over the last couple of years in our value add properties, it's allowing us to achieve year 5 projections at year 2 and 3. And also what COVID did is it really exacerbated and sped up a lot of the turnover. So where we were anticipating to get to year 5 rents at a 5% increase each year, when you have turnover in a unit that's 29% below market, that tenant moves out, now you can increase it, that 29%. It's allowing us to achieve those projections a lot quicker than we were anticipating, both with COVID and inflation. So we are about to, we're in the process of selling our second complex that we ever bought, a 24 unit.
Okay, fantastic. That's good. And so from well, I guess it's not a done deal yet. So as far as the returns, but you've hit your 5-year projection and everything looks like it's going to be good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for our investors, we do, the majority of my investors are looking for 100% ROI, return on investment, really like 3 to 5 year period. So if our investors invest $50,000, we're looking to give them that $50,000 plus another $50,000 on top of that. And that's seen through quarterly payments. So it averages anywhere between like a 15 to 20% averaged annualized return. And this is the number that you want to compare to the stock market, which the majority of people that I talk to and healthcare professionals, they're invested really solely in the retirement market stock index. And so they're earning around 6% average annualized return. And so to be able to offer 15 to 20% is huge. It's a great way for them to be able to diversify their portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's important. The stock market plays a role, but it should not be your only. And same thing with a lot of the folks I work with. They've got the company 401k. They may have some stocks, but aside from that, there's not a whole lot outside of that. So to be able to at least go 2 different directions, and you mentioned inflation. Oftentimes in inflation, as you mentioned, the rents will go up versus down, and the stock market typically goes down during that time frame. This year's been kind of crazy regardless, but it's not so tied to the markets, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's a huge hedge.
So at some point you jumped into a storage unit. Tell me about that and kind of what what led you to check that one out?
Yeah, that's really been a result of community and networking and building relationships in the space. So with multifamily investing, I mean, one of your first questions is, did you have partners in that first deal? It's really common for syndications to be made up of a team of real estate investors, all kind of tag teaming different aspects of the project. And so that's what makes this asset class a lot different than some of the people going out and doing long-term rentals or short-term rentals, in a sense, kind of on their own. And so really from the beginning, coming into the real estate space, we've been focused on creating relationships and networks, and just knowing other investors who are investing in storage, seeing the type of returns they could potentially offer, their value add deals, very resistant during COVID pandemic. There's a lot of upside there. And so we came in with another general partner who had existing experience with storage units and learning as we go.
That's awesome. And so did you help raise capital for that one as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. I guess tell me a little bit about that. You said that a lot of your investors are in the healthcare profession. Are these people that you work with, or just because you're in healthcare, you kind of understand where to network with for them, or how are you kind of working that?
Yeah, twofold. Social media is a big piece of that. So early on, I created a platform, Net Worth Nurse, to really kind of just exactly what a platform is, to have a voice and tell my story and share what I'm doing in real estate investing. The majority of healthcare professionals don't know that they can get started investing in real estate really passively through these syndications. They don't really even know about the investment. So I've always come at an angle of educating and informing and just kind of showing that this opportunity exists. And then, so a lot of what I do on social media is education. I do blogs. I have worksheets and guides. I make it a point to go on a lot of podcast episodes, because for me personally, when I got started, it was listening to podcast episodes and hearing people share their stories, and me seeing, wow, people from all walks of life with all different backgrounds are able to make real estate work for them. And so I just make it a point to share my story to hope encourage and motivate other people out there who are interested in it. But kind of what I do more at the hospital, and building relationships with people that I have working relationships with, it's a lot different because they see how I work as a nurse and as a nursing administrator. And so usually those people, when they hear that I'm investing in real estate or have these investment opportunities, they're a little bit quicker to jump in because they already see how I'm working day to day as a nurse. And so that's been really cool to see. And for me, just because I've held an administration role for so long in the healthcare setting, it's not something that I openly talk about all the time. But if people are asking me, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I flew up to Oregon to visit an apartment complex we're thinking about buying. Oh, what? You buy what? You invest in real estate? What's that? Or, what'd you do this summer? Oh, we closed on a 17 unit and this, that, and the other. And it just, that's kind of how I start a lot of the relationships like that in the hospital setting, face to face.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's really neat. What about maybe property management? So are most of your properties managed by the same company, or is it, kind of more localized based on where in Oregon it is?
Yeah, definitely local. My husband does a lot of the asset management and touching base with the property managers, sometimes on a weekly basis, daily if there's something like going on, like an eviction or a big renovation, that type of stuff. But we vet out all of our property managers as we're looking at the deal. So our goal is, when we show up to do the inspection, that we've already talked to or interviewed a couple different property management companies, and they're there with us going through the inspection to see the potential property that they're going to be taking ownership over. And so that's really helpful for us to have kind of that interview done ahead of time, asking them really what their overall business strategy, what they could do with their property, what the working relationship looks like. And then having them show up at the inspection really kind of solidifies that. And then, we keep touch with them depending on what's going on with the property very regularly. They are our eyes and ears of the property, so they're important.
Okay. Yeah. And so, you've mentioned a couple different ones. How many, can you give us maybe a better sense as to, how many apartment buildings you have, and then how many units those are, just to understand that a little bit better?
Yeah, so all of ours are on the smaller size, so we don't have any live-in property managers. So 12, right. 24, 18, 36, and 17. So all of our property managers are off-site, and they're local to the specific market that the building's in.
Okay, yeah, which makes sense with that number of units, but you can still obviously make a ton of money with these, even though they're smaller. You still can apply the scale, and things can work well. So that's great. What about right now? I mean, are you looking for anything specific as far as additional multifamily? If so, where? And kind of what do you see beyond what you're currently looking for? But what do you see maybe in the next 3 years for you and your husband as far as your investing?
Yeah, definitely continuing to purchase multifamily. We love apartments. This mid-size level is really kind of our sweet spot. We are exploring other markets. We've looked at Georgia, the Carolinas, kind of in the Sun Belt area, and then some in the Midwest. And it just takes time to kind of establish brokers there, property management team, people on site that could do the repairs and renovations. So still building out the teams in some of these other markets and getting some deal flow there. But our goal is to continue to acquire 2 to 3 buildings over the next few years. And then a lot of my time and energy is also spent on my startup, Invest Health. So it's balancing the real estate piece and this financial wellness.
Yeah, Lynn, we'll dive into that. I definitely want to hear about that. But what about with the multifamily? What was I going to ask you? I'm losing the train of thought here, but I think all it was let's see. No, I lost it. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, right. Well, I guess tell me a little bit about the tech startup, and what exactly is it?
Yeah, so it really stemmed out of having a lot of conversations with healthcare professionals about real estate investments and what syndications are, and walking away from a lot of the conversations, realizing that healthcare professionals really don't have financial basics and understandings of how credit works, what tools they need to buy their first home, what student loan payoff looks like, how to set up a proper budget. I mean, you would be shocked how many nurses have never set up a budget, literally because they do not want to look at where their money is going every month. And having conversations like this over and over in the healthcare community, and even with physicians, it's so bad because they rack on hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, and then they get into these high-paying prestige careers where they're keeping up with the residents, attendings at their office who are driving Porsches and have the big house and all the things. And so immediately, and physicians are targeted by financial advisors and different institutions, knowing that they're high income earners. And so they're really put at a disadvantage, both with the student loan debt that they're coming into their career holding, and then also the expectations that they have making a high income early on. And so what our product does, it's a financial wellness product. So everything education based, it has tons of different resources, and we're going direct to employers with it. So it's a B2B product. We're integrating into healthcare systems as a value add benefit feature. So healthcare organizations, travel agencies, medical schools, nursing schools, that type of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really neat. And how is that up and running? And if so, kind of, how is it going so far? As far as are you mainly concentrated in the California area, or are you pretty well branched out?
Yeah.
targeting
The
others?
startup world is like a lot different than the real estate world. It's been so eye-opening coming even into real estate as a nurse over the last few years and hanging out at conferences and networking and coming into that space and learning the language. And then now moving into the startup space, it's a whole nother ball game, right? Different set of rules over there. There's some things that transfer over, but for the majority of it, it's been learning a lot as we go, going through an accelerator program, creating relationships, partnerships, collaborations. We have our product live. We have beta users on it. We have some partnerships with some large nursing associations who are getting their users on it. And so, yeah, it's been busy and a lot of learning.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, good. Congratulations on that. I let's go back maybe to the multifamily. There were a couple questions that I have had on that, mainly around the mentorship that you were in. Like on the ones that you were focused on, you were doing a lot of a lot of value add. Were you able to network with the mentorship program to be able to find contractors, that kind of thing, or what were some of the biggest things that you could leverage with that program besides just the, hey, how do I do this type thing?
Yeah. So the coaching mentorship, I think, is great for two reasons. So one, having the expertise, the extra set of eyes, someone you could problem solve and strategize with, like that piece of it is really helpful. And I think a lot of other people utilize these coaching programs for that accountability piece, someone to really kind of keep them accountable, hold them moving forward through the steps. We didn't really need that accountability piece. We're action takers. We were highly motivated. And so for us, it was really kind of having that resource to come to and kick problems to, that what if, you don't know what you don't know. But the community aspect of it was really big. There's resources on there where Slack, Circle, different features where you could chat and communicate with other operators, investors, looking for key principals, which are people who can help qualify for high debt. I mean, us coming into this in our late 20s, that was a big hurdle for us. And so we needed to create an ecosystem of resources like that. But there's a lot of, even Facebook groups now are popping off with all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of places where you can go and find a lot of that information for free.
Right. And is it? Do you mind mentioning which program it is, or?
Yeah, it was the Michael Blanc program.
Okay. Yeah, I know Michael. All right, cool. Sounds good. Good to hear. Interesting. Yeah, and so what? I guess as far as your future investing, you're going to continue to look at multifamily, and what specifically are you going to be looking for? And have you had any deal flow, in today's market? It's a little bit of a weird time.
Yeah, it is. We just closed on a 17 unit in Portland, Oregon, last month, which has been great. We locked in some great financing terms with that before rates started to rise again. So deals are out there. What I see personally in the real estate space is just the people that are the most creative are having the most success. And this can be creative in how you're sourcing deals and doing deal flows, direct marketing, cold leads, outreach. Like, what are you doing to be creative with how you're sourcing deals? You got to get creative with financing. There's a lot of different ways that you can leverage seller debt, hard money, raising capital. There's different ways that you can leverage money to get these deals done. And so where I've seen is just getting creative with all of this is people, they're having the most success.
Yeah. Okay. And let's talk maybe a little bit about the debt. These are a little bit smaller deals. And what kind of lending have you been able to secure on them? I'm sure it's varied from deal to deal, but just curious more than anything else as far as what's that looked like? What kind of terms have you been able to get what's the length of them, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they've all varied. Our last two deals are Freddie Mac deals. We did do a credit union for the first, or the second and third deal. So they've varied in terms of rates. We've done fixed rates on all of them, which has been so helpful, especially
Very
as
good.
rates are rising. Those are the horror stories I hear from people who are in syndications and not sure they're going to get any of their money back with operators who were playing with some variable loan terms. So we've done fixed rates, and that's just always kind of been a part of our conservative underwriting, and how we do our projections for investors is really eliminating a lot of risk by just including that into our underwriting, these lending terms. And so working with agency debt has been a very eye-opening experience. And I think something that we really do emphasize to our investors, because the amount of scrutiny that Freddie Mac holds these deals to is unbelievable. They're looking through the inspections. They're looking through the numbers. They're basically vetting out our business model. They're making sure that everything looks good. And because it's in their best interest that we pay their loan back. And so they really put a lot of time and effort into the underwriting on these deals, which I think has been a really great and a big learning experience, and then also some risk mitigation for our investors in the deals.
Yeah, I think that's a piece that a lot of times people forget to talk about, or maybe just don't mention as much. But you're right; you got a whole nother set of eyes, and they're looking at the financials and saying, "Well, now wait a minute. Is this going to actually cover the payment? And what percentage does it need to do that with?" And they sometimes will see stuff that that you may not have noticed the first go round or whatever. But I think it's just another set of eyes that really helps. Helps protect the investors. So, and with that, so different story on the credit union. Then was it more like just qualifying you guys based on how the property was performing, or are any of them personal guarantees that you've had to do?
So that was the big hurdle that we had to overcome with the credit unions, is the guarantees on the loan. And so credit unions want over 50% ownership to guarantee the loan, which in a syndication is very difficult to do, because usually the general partners or the operators on the deal, they take only 20% of it, with the majority ownership going to the investors based on how much capital they're bringing to the deal. And so in that situation, working with the credit union on our second and third deal, we did have to have some of our investors guarantee on the loan with us, but we rewarded them with extra percentage in the deal. And so it was a mutually beneficial agreement.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Very interesting. And so anything else with the multifamily that you feel like would be important for the listeners to know? And then I would be really curious to hear, you've obviously got a mentor, which accelerates your growth. Very, you're able to leverage their knowledge, all that good stuff. But what advice maybe would you give somebody who's maybe just starting out?
Yeah, it's network. There are a lot of ways that you can network with people in the space, whether it's Facebook groups or Instagram, or if you don't like Instagram, there's TikTok, or if you don't like that, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook. I swear there's a social media platform for every personality out there, and you don't have to do the one that you don't like. Find the one that you like and connect with people on there who are doing things in real estate that pique your interest. What I have found in the space is there is a lot of collaboration. There is a lot of help and support and resources and encouragement. And the more you can contribute to those relationships, the more benefit it can bring in your business moving forward. And so the relationships that I've created over the last couple of years have really been the foundation of how successful our real estate business has grown.
Yeah, that's neat. So with some of your social, what are the types of things that you maybe share with your audience and what real estate related stuff are you putting out there?
Yeah, social media is a beast, and on every platform it'll be a little different. So yes, you can catch me on TikTok and Instagram doing reels and catchy little dances in my
Right.
scrubs occasionally, right? Nurses and other healthcare professionals love that stuff. So I make sure to do a little bit of that. But I have blogs, infographics. I share like on Instagram, I share like a lot of stories of like day to day. If I'm closing on a deal, like what my day kind of looks like and what I'm doing. Even as a nurse, when I go into the hospital, I share that type of stuff. I do a lot of statistics and surveys. I do a lot of education. I mean, almost all of the content that I'm putting out there has a foundation in education. And that's primarily because the majority of my investors, healthcare professionals, are learning. And so I make sure to kind of meet them where they're at.
Yeah, that's great. Have you done on any of your projects so far? Have y'all done cost segregation studies? And maybe if you don't mind talking just a little bit about that, as far as some of the benefits, especially for the healthcare professionals, high income earners.
Yeah, definitely. So we do cost segregation studies on all of our assets. And so for anyone who doesn't know, there's a lot of tax benefits that you can receive by doing these studies and depreciating a lot of the asset through the taxes. And so what this does is it offsets the income that our investors are receiving from this. And so it is highly dependent on everyone's tax situation. And I always encourage everyone, go talk to your CPA if you're thinking about investing in a syndication to see how they can kind of set you up for success in that, because everyone's so personalized. But there's great ways that especially healthcare professionals who, if their partner can claim full-time real estate professional, or I have a lot of physicians or mid-level practitioners who own other real estate deals and other assets. And so they can receive a lot of benefits through these cost segregation studies.
Yeah, exactly. I had an opportunity to do one on just a short-term rental here at the beginning of at the end of last year for tax season this year, and it made a huge difference. It was had a capital gains tax I would have had to pay, and it basically washed that out. So it can certainly be beneficial. What about, are any of your investors investing through an IRA into some of your projects?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a lot of healthcare professionals who work a lot of different jobs, and most of them don't know. But when you leave an employer, you have an old 401k account that usually with a click of a button, you can go online and convert it into a rollover IRA. When you leave the employer, you're usually able to do that. I did that with mine through Fidelity, literally with a click of a button online. And once you convert it over into a rollover IRA, you can move it into a self-directed IRA or a SD IRA. And at that point, you can take the funds and invest in other things like gold, precious metals. You can invest in real estate. So it's a great way for healthcare professionals to grow that retirement money that's otherwise just sitting in an account collecting dust, and them to take kind of a more proactive approach and put it in an investment vehicle that's growing at a better rate. The only caveat with that is that all of the disbursements that we give for that investment go directly back into that IRA account. And so they technically can't touch it until they're 59 and a half, but still a great way to diversify and grow those funds at a better rate.
Yeah, for sure. And to tap into something that you've already built up, as you mentioned, if you're moving jobs and you've already built this up, so you're going to get taxed on it if you try to pull it out. Instead, just being able to kind of roll it into something is nice. Yeah. What about, let me just ask, I guess, outside of when you're not investing in real estate, being a mom, all these other things? What are you up to?
Yeah, well, the mom thing, that's like a full-time job too. So always playing around with my kiddos.
Right.
I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're sweet as pie. I was at swim lessons. They both started school this week. So very involved with whatever they're doing at all times. But I love yoga. I have a very strong meditation practice. Started taking up some mosaic, ceramic type stuff and some gardening, trying to balance that work-life balance. For me, I could probably grind on the computer 24 hours a day at stuff. So for me, it's constantly bringing in that balance.
Awesome. Well, I think it's been a great show. I really appreciate having you on. I'll ask one other question that I ask all my guests, and it's just as much for the audience as it is for myself, but always looking to hear if you have any good book recommendations.
Yeah, Who Not How. I've probably been getting that one a bunch lately, but that one has been really big for me, especially when scaling and taking it to the next step of growing a business. And even in real estate too, because the transactions are so big. There's so many different people that come in with their expertise. And as a newbie, you think, I have to do it all. You have to learn all the things. And you really don't. You just need to tap into who knows that stuff in your life and bring them in some capacity. So yeah, love that one.
Yeah, it's a great book for sure. Good recommendation. All right, Savannah. Well, I sure appreciate having you on today. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll call it a show.
Being that you're still here, I trust you found value in this episode. I personally wish I would have known these guests and strategies when I started my wealth creation journey. Go to wealthflow.capital to subscribe to our newsletter. And as a free gift, we will send you our quarterly market report and the top 10 things to look for in an investment opportunity. Take a minute to give our show a rating and review. Help us reach 1 million professionals by subscribing and sharing this episode with someone you know who could also find value in it.